Welcome back to The Point, a part of the Vendetta Sports Media podcast network. My name is Jarrod Prosser, and after a little bit of time away, I'm very happy to have you back with us once again. On each episode of The Point, I'll examine a topic, a question, or an issue currently impacting the NBA. Today, we're going to talk about the Miami Heat, who, after a rather nondescript regular season, were mere minutes away from straight sets elimination in the playoff tourney. The fact that they made the NBA Finals, we're recording this just after Game 5, and a hearty congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, and a shout out to my Vendetta stablemates Jerry Walker and Garrett Burrows. Drink it all in, fellas. It doesn't happen often. But back at the ranch, the fact that Miami made the Finals, taking out conference powerhouses Boston and Milwaukee along the way, was simply remarkable, especially when you consider that the Heat lost star guard Tyler Hero in the opening game of the Milwaukee series. Much has been made of the Heat's terrific run and how they've gone about it. Of course, most of the plaudits have gone to Jimmy Butler, who was beyond human in round 1 versus the Bucks. An ankle injury in round 2, though, did somewhat hamper his production since. Bam Adebayo was a defensive rock, whilst also stepping up offensively when needed. He didn't have the greatest offensive series against Boston, though was outstanding in the finals. Miami's bevy of role players, be it the veterans in Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love, or their army of undrafted foot soldiers, think Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. They've enjoyed some insane shooting nights, as well as employed underrated playmaking to supplement their stars. Rightly, longtime head coach Erik Spoelstra is receiving his dues too. I've long touted his abilities, and I've thought him the best coach in the NBA for a number of years now. It's a specific area of Spo's coaching that I want to focus on in this edition of The Point. Miami's vaunted zone defense. For the longest time, Spoelstra's Heat have hung their hat on their pioneering defenses. Think back to Chris Bosh shifting to the 5 during the Heatles years, becoming a super switchable big with just enough shot blocking to make up for his relative lack of heft. Does that sound like a proto-band to you? How about career wing Shane Battier dealing with the bulkier forwards to allow LeBron James and to a lesser degree Dwayne Wade and Bosh to become menacing rovers in the Jordan Pippen mold? Spoelstra, throughout his career, has usually been at the forefront of defensive innovation. The more recent versions of the Heat have relied on their zone defense for the longest time, and still to many so apparent experts, seen as a gimmick deal, some sort of admission that your defense is somehow inferior. When run properly, a zone in any of its many alignments can be a nightmare for even elite attacks. So, let's dive into Miami Heat's zone defense. Let's begin by taking a look at the numbers. In the regular season, Miami set up in zone on 21% of their possessions. By comparison, Portland at 14.9% were the second most frequent zone users, and the only other club to hit double figures. That figure has dropped to 17.3% through the playoffs for Miami, though still a full 10% higher than the next most regular zone users, the LA Lakers. At the outset of the finals, Miami sported a stunning 90.6 defensive rating when in zone, easily the best defense in the league when extrapolated out over all possessions. Miami's standard zone is nominally a 2-3, 2 players up high, 3 covering the baseline, though they often use an eye alignment at the top of the zone that makes it look a little like a 1-1-3. The idea behind playing an eye alignment at the top of a 2-3 is to stop the offense from overloading one side of the floor, therefore isolating one of your guards. It also helps switch initial pick and rolls, the lifeblood of every modern NBA offense. It also helps to take away an early pass to a player cutting to the nail, the soft underbelly of a standard 2-3 zone, as we can see here. In addition to this slightly unorthodox alignment up the top, the wide baseline players or wing players in Miami's 2-3 push up a lot higher than is traditional in order to pressure the first pass and sometimes out and out disrupt passing lanes. With the center sitting low, this can sometimes look like a 2-2-1 zone. This nebulous shape can sometimes see Miami zone referred to as a matchup zone. I can see where that comes from, though I wouldn't go nearly so far as to give it that label. This is, at its heart, a 2-3. Spoelstra's zone also jumbles the traditional positional roles within the zone. He'll often try to hide lesser defenders. Think a 37-year-old Lowry or the heady but slow-footed Robinson. in the wide baseline roles and have more athletic players at the top of the zone. Haywood Highsmith, or before his injury, Victor Oladipo, were regulars at the top of Miami's 2-3. The idea behind this is to have those more athletic players be pests at the point of attack. Miami's guards are instructed to be ball hawks, closing hard, and when the ball is moved on, shoot immediately back into gap defense. When the ball is moved to the wing or corner, bringing the baseline player, theoretically a lesser defender, into play, the off-ball guard sets up shop at the nail, again, traditionally the weak spot within the zone, thus allowing the center to shade over to provide cover for the lesser defender on the wing. When confronted with a pick and roll from the wing, Miami generally play drop and have the screener chase over the pick. This limits looks at the rim, it cuts off the roll, and importantly, it prevents switches. I've mentioned that the wide baseline or wing players within Miami zone are often lesser one-on-one defenders, but that doesn't make their role within the zone any less vital. The high ball pressure that the two players at the top of the zone, the pressure that they employ, means that there will be gaps on the wing if the defenders are not active and alert. In the Heat's 2-3 zone, the wing defenders have to cover an almost ungodly amount of the court. As I mentioned, the Heat's wing defenders are often employed far higher up the floor than a traditional 2-3 would have them. The Heat's lack of genuine size and, outside of Adebayo, rim protection means that the center needs to be stationed closer to the basket. The result is the wings having to cover everything from their own corner and wing to sometimes the elbow on the opposite side of the floor when the offense does attempt to overload. When the defense is forced into this sort of situation, a quick baseline cut sees the wing have to scamper from that elbow all the way back to his original corner, with the center or strong side wing usually stepping in to cover them. If there is a player lurking in the dunker's spot, the center in this defense almost sells out to stay home. This opens up the high post area. Once again, this is where the wings come into play. In deploying their wings so high within this defense, they're able to disrupt or at least increase the difficulty of a post-entry pass. That moment of hesitation is often enough for Miami's high-energy zone to shapeshift and either take away the pass or at least take away the primary action of the post player the moment he catches the basketball. The aggressiveness with which the Heat allow their wings to play isn't nearly possible without Bam Adebayo manning the center position. To that end, the Heat play a far more conservative zone, if they play it much at all, when Kevin Love or Cody Zeller are on the floor as the nominal defensive five-man. So for the purposes of this video, we'll default to the Heat zone when Adebayo is on the floor. Whilst Bam will, from time to time, take up a more traditional role within the zone, guarding a post player anywhere up to the free throw line, his primary role within the defense is to protect the baseline. When required, he'll even fly out to the corners to contest or prevent a shot, though the Heat quickly scramble their wing to the ball, allowing Bam to retreat. In that sense, he's almost like a baseline player in a 1-3-1 zone, darting from side to side to cover for the players ahead of him. Usually, though, Adebayo is sitting deep and is lurking. Bam is a good, if not quite elite, rim protector who has otherworldly speed and agility for a man of his size. As I mentioned earlier, Miami usually have Bam playing in drop coverage rather than coming up to the point of attack. That might seem counterintuitive, given Adebayo's agility and ability to stay in front of even the quickest guards. His primary focus, though, is protecting the basket and allowing his four teammates to aggressively fly around the floor. Bam uses his speed and agility to force the ball carrier into indecision should they get into the paint. He's quick enough off the ground to, at the very least, contest a shot, yet he's agile enough to stay with the drive or react to a quick shovel pass to a baseline cutter. Bam isn't Miles Turner, Brook Lopez, or Jaren Jackson Jr. in sheer shot blocking capability, but it is almost impossible to make him commit to blocking your shot until the very last moment. In practical terms, this makes Adebayo both a center and a baseline player within a traditional 2-3 zone, and in effect gives the Heat an extra half player on the floor on defense. When you watch Miami play in their 2-3, the amount of times that you see the offense touch the paint, then have to kick the ball out to keep the attack moving is remarkable. That is a direct result of Bam's duplicity within this defense. In general terms, a zone attempts to do two things: hide weaker defenders, weaker one-on-one defenders, of which the Heat have a few, and take away the flow and movement of a scripted offense, creating head-down one-on-one drives where second and third defenders can easily help. We saw how effective this could be against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston are a team that can get white hot from deep. And one way to beat any zone is to simply shoot over the top of it. But if your shots are not falling, then you need quick decisions and crisp passing to bend that zone out of alignment. This is where the Celtics fell down against Miami. Whilst Boston have an elite player in Jason Tatum that can create offense for himself and very good self-creators in Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, and Marcus Smart, none of them, perhaps Brogdon aside when the mood takes him, are genuine connective tissue types. Derek White has that sort of makeup, but he lacks the ability to repeatedly break down his defender, thus nullifying his passing. Miami's zone stifled the continuity of Boston's offensive sets and as a result, got the Celtics to feed on their own worst tendencies, namely holding the ball too long and a lack of movement away from the basketball. The amount of times we saw Tatum and especially Brown drive into second and third defenders as they tried to create something from nothing after another broken offensive set within that series was alarming. The Denver Nuggets, by contrast, scored a greater efficiency against zone defenses, including Miami's, than any other NBA squad. Now, let's not bury the lead here, folks. Nikola Jokic is the primary reason why Miami's vaunted zone defense has not worked in the NBA Finals. It's not so much that Joker's passing ability that has carved up Miami's zone, than it is his willingness to move the ball almost immediately. I just spoke about the sticky hands of Boston's best players. Jokic, by contrast, is always thinking pass first and will only think score when there are no immediate passing options in front of him. Jokic's advantages in sheer size and mass also means that it's far more difficult for the smaller Heat to prevent him catching at the nail, again, the traditional weak spot in the 2-3 zone, where he can rifle passes to shooters like Michael Porter or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He can find expert cutters like Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green, or either of the Browns. The attention that Jokic draws also opens up the seemingly endless options that stem from his dance with Jamal Murray. If Jokic's passing lanes are cut off, he simply goes into his array of slow-motion pivots and fakes, killing the defense with his feathery touch around the hoop. A pet play in the finals for Denver has been a Murray-Jokic sideline pick and roll with Porter in the strong side corner, KCP on the weak side wing, and Gordon in the weak side dunker spot, sometimes starting in the weak side corner. Betting that the strong side wing defender cannot possibly abandon a shooter like Porter, Murray will take that screen to the outside, knowing that he'll have a driving lane. Jokic will pop to the three-point line, roughly vertical to the elbow. Should Porter's defender decide to leave his man, Murray has an easy kick out to a shooter who can launch over practically any closeout. If the defender stays home and Murray can get downhill, he has a former dunk champ in Gordon, giving Adebayo or whoever's playing center second thoughts about rotating. Jokic, shooting just the lazy 46% from beyond the arc through the postseason, will be wide open if his man within the zone follows Murray. And as mentioned, that is the Heat's usual MO when navigating screens. KCP will usually slide up to be one pass away from Jokic, though he does sometimes drift into the corner or cut to the basket. This play has repeatedly perplexed the Heat zone, though there's no real shame in that. There really hasn't been a defense in the league that has figured out how to stop these Nuggets this season. And that might be the right note to end on. Miami's 2-3 zone is a work of art. It's flexible without being breakable. It contains very defined roles, but remains adaptable enough to react to just about any situation it confronts. It's aggressive without giving up too much at the back end. Spoelstra's novel take on the 2-3 zone has been perhaps the driving force in Miami's magnificent run through the Eastern Conference. It's a testament to his and his staff's ingenuity and to his players' ability to execute. It is, though, like any defense, vulnerable to the wrong matchup. And in Jokic and his Nuggets, the Heat's Super 2-3 zone appears to have found its kryptonite. And that will take us to the end of this edition of The Point. Please leave your comments and questions below the line, and I'll do my best to respond to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Point and to all of the other wonderful material that Vendetta Sports Media produces. My name is Jarrod Prosser. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again next time.